guys, this is Tina from Shabbydabbydoodah. I'm super excited because I have been challenged by the lovely Joie at Joie De Fi to join her and Barbara from 49Dragonflies in their altered book challenge that they're doing, or their altered books that they're doing. I have done altered books before and I love doing them. I have to say, I haven't done one for absolutely ages. I can't even remember the last altered book I did. It might have been The Butterfly House. I really don't know. It was such a long time ago. So I will try and link a couple of my old altered book videos below as well. But what I thought that I would do is just show you, because I think when I've done the other ones, I don't think I've really kind of gone through the process of actually starting. I've come when the book is ready to use. And I know that Joie in her video, she was really super informative and talked you through kind of the books to use and things like that. So I'm not going to go into as much detail as her or anything like that, but I'm just going to give you a very quick overview, basically. So what I've got here is a couple of books, and I've got one that I have already prepared, which I'm going to, be using for our series, and this one, which I'm just going to kind of, talk you through and show you the types of things that I look out for. So these books, although they are older, I mean, they are technically vintage, I guess, because I think they're 1995, I think, and I'm pretty sure that anything over 20 years classes as vintage, would you believe? So yeah, although I don't think these are that old, they are technically vintage. But as you can see, I mean, they're in amazingly good condition. The spine's completely intact. They're very solid. They're really good books. They're not too thick. I mean, this one here is thicker than the other one. But yeah, I mean, it's got 376 pages. So, they're not that thick, but they're not really thin. Now, I have got a couple of other books which I had prepared absolutely months ago, which are much thinner, which I will get round to making something with them eventually. But at the moment, they're just on my shelf, kind of ready to use. So it is possible to mix up all different thicknesses of books and things like that, but you're just going to have less pages to work with. And the other thing is, I know that obviously, sometimes you get those really beautiful, like proper, what I would call vintage books. I personally haven't ever made an altered book from a really old book. I've made one, I think, from like the 50s, things like that. They're okay. I mean, personally, I find that, I prefer personally to use something like this for an altered book. I feel much more confident in the the finished kind of stability of the book. I feel more confident that the book's going to hold up for a long time, but that's just my preference. I mean, I have also made altered books in the kind of just actual current modern day your James Patterson and what have you types of books. We can get them from a shop here called Poundland. I have bought them from there before and used actual modern books. And of course, once you've decorated them and embellished them and, distress inked them and what have you, they no longer look like modern books. They, they look old, they feel vintage, they, look amazing, but they're going to hold up really well. So, personally, yeah, I wouldn't necessarily pick a really vintage book to use. That's just my preference. And, I know that there's loads and loads of people out there who do amazing altered books using a proper vintage book. So have a look at lots of different videos and sort of see what you like. Now, there's also an amazing video from Crafty Irene, and she talks about doing an altered book, and what she recommends is taking, now she says 8 pages, so you go through your book, and a bit like Joie actually, I always tend to leave my first few pages, and by that what I'm saying is I like to leave the pages that are quite plain, because for me I think, well, they're just plain anyway, and you can use those for journaling. So I like to leave the first few pages kind of plain, and I'll show you in this video what I then go on to do with the pages. But then what I do is, like Crafty Irene suggested, so in this book, for instance, it's got this navy blue cover, which I then feel is a little bit restrictive, because I'm then going to feel obliged to use something that's going to coordinate with the navy blue. But, that's fine. So I'm going to go through and find where I feel would be a good starting point. So, you know, maybe here. Now, these pages here are thinner, I think, than the pages in this book. So if I just kind of show you, these feel a lot thinner than these. I don't know, you know, what the thickness of these are, obviously, or anything like that, but these just feel thinner. This feels a lot more, yeah, sturdy. So I'm just going to move that to one side. So what I would do, and I mean, I actually have done that, you know, prepared this book in the same way as well, but I may find that it's overkill. So I'll explain in a second. So what I like to do is generally glue a couple of pages together if they're quite flimsy, because that's then going to give me a really good base for my pages. So if I were making pocket pages, for instance, I would keep 1, 2, and I'm going to glue those together. Then I would have another 2, glue those together, and then I would glue them like here and here and here to form a pocket page. Do you see what I mean? So to make one pocket page, which has 2 sides and 1 pocket, I'm using 4 pages. Okay, so I hope this is making sense. I know it sounds quite confusing, but hopefully it will all come to make a bit more sense further in. And then what Crafty Irene suggested was removing 8 pages and then the same again. Now, I have to confess that I don't necessarily go for 8 pages. I just, you know, suck it and see through the book. So, you know, I may leave 8 pages here, and then I'll do my 4 pages, and then I may leave like 6 pages. I just kind of vary it. And the other thing is, as I then go through the book, I may find I start leaving 8 pages rigidly because it's then still looking quite fat, or the reverse. It ends up looking quite thin, and so then maybe my pages will go down to like only say 5 pages in between. Again, I don't think that really matters. And if I just show you on this one, which I've kind of prepared earlier, you can probably see, so I have done similar to that in here. It's not that evident. I mean, you can see slightly thicker where I've obviously torn out slightly more pages, you know, in 1 or 2 spots. But I mean, who's going to be scrutinising the book like that? Nobody really is going to be looking at it like that. So I think it's very forgiving, and you can get away with, you know, adjusting it accordingly. So all you're going to do is go through the book and tear out your pages, okay? I think oh no, I thought perhaps I'd torn 2. So this obviously is going to take you some time. It's, you know, something to do, I guess, whilst, you know, just sat down watching TV or, you know, watching YouTube or something like that. So I'm just taking out, and I will start this with 8 pages. Taking out your pages, I'm pretty sure I've got 2 there, so I'm up to 6. And then I could probably do another 2 together here. Okay, so you're just going to go through like that. Now again, probably, you know, unless if it's the modern books, sorry for knocking my desk, I'm trying to get comfy on my chair, so sorry about that. If it's the modern books from Poundland, that, you know, your James Patterson or Stephen King or something like that, you probably can just, you know, not bin your pages, but just use them totally for scrap, like for stamping on and things like that. If they're a story that hopefully is not going to be offensive or use bad words or, you know, anything like that, then keep your book pages, because I've got some other ideas for things to do with those. So I'm just going to put my book pages to one side. Now again, 1, 2, 3, 4. So again, that's my 2 glued together there, my 2 glued together there, and then again glued around to form a pocket. Okay, and then you're going to do exactly the same. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 pages there. Okay, so again, I'm just going to get rid of those to the side and put them out the way. Okay, so that's my 2 pockets already. Now you can probably see, I mean, this is quite a thick book, so I think maybe 8 pages will be okay for this whole book, because, you know, otherwise I'm going to have an incredible amount of pages in, you know, in here. But just play around, like I say, just play around. If then once you get through, you think, oh, actually, I've not got much book left and I've not got many pages here, just cut it down to, you know, 6, 7, you know, 5 even, tearing 5 out. You know, just play it by ear and don't be too rigid in your way of doing it. And then the next thing that I was going to say is obviously these are for pocket pages. Now, often I don't have every single page as a pocket page. So I may just like to have a couple, you know, pages here and there that are just pages, if you see what I mean. And depending on the thickness of the page will depend on whether or not I feel they need gluing together as a double thickness. Okay, so I'm going to just pop that book to one side because I'm sure you don't want to just see me tearing out pages, you know, for hours on end. It would be pretty boring. So I'm going to pull in the book that I have actually now, you know, prepared. Get rid of these pictures. I'd kept these because I thought I could make journaling cards with those. Now, Crafty Irene, I saw a very useful tip from her altered book video a long time ago, where she said she always starts at the back of the book when gluing her pages together. And she said that she found it just made a difference to the integrity of the book. I.e., if you start at the beginning of the book, and funnily enough, my initial altered books, which I had done probably 10 years ago, well, a couple of things. I didn't glue them together. I would take a chunk of pages and I would stitch them on the sewing machine, which of course that was quite tricky to do. So I'm much preferring the glue method. But I did always start at the beginning of the book. And funnily enough, my book then it didn't go out of shape exactly, but you know, by sort of halfway through the book, my pages were slightly more ruckered in places. So I think that's a really handy tip to just start at the back and work your way forward. Now here you can see this page here is kind of glued onto this back like fly sheet. So I'm not going to include that in these 2 pages, if that makes sense. So I'm going to just glue these 2 together and literally, you know, all I'm going to do, take my glue, let's hope I'm not having glue problems like I have done recently. And I'm just going to glue around the edge of the page. I like to go in quite near the crease as well. And then just, you know, some glue through the middle. Oops. So that it's nicely stuck down. I mean, you know, as I say, this is all the bit that takes the time. Once your altered book is actually formed, you know, that's the hard work, and then the rest is very easy and you know, I think comes together really well. I mean, funnily enough, my first ever junk journal that I made, that was using an altered book or doing an altered book. I think because the thought of actually stitching one in, you know, even as a soft cover, that just terrified me. So an altered book just seemed like the, you know, the easiest way to do it. So they're definitely good fun to do, and once you've done one, I'm sure you'll want to do more because they are, you know, they are super fun and quite addictive to do. And I mean, as I say, it's a long time since I've done one now, but they always turned out feeling super vintagey and old and just like something you picked up in an antique store. So hopefully you will all get that lovely sort of effect as well. So again, that's that page, and I'm just going to then go over that with my glue spreader just to make sure that that's nicely glued down. Okay, so then I'm just going to work my way through the book. So in this particular instance, what I've done is I decided to leave that as a separate page, or did I decide to have that as a pocket? No, I think I was having that as a separate page, and so then this will be excuse me, this will be my pocket. So I will demonstrate quickly how we do that. So again, I'm just going to glue my pages together, you know, exactly the same method, so nothing complicated or anything. So just go round as close as you can to the edge. I mean, you know, doesn't really matter too much. Oops. Just done another couple of videos which my glue was playing up, and I should have really changed the bottle. And then lots of glue in the middle to just hold those pages, you know, together so they're really nicely glued closed. Okay, and just then glue them down like that. Again, you can use your glue spreader and then just open that up, and you can press that down like that. Okay, and then you're going to do the same with these two, and we're then going to glue these together as a pocket. So I'm just going to go in here like this. I mean, to be honest, these pages on this particular book, they're actually quite thick. So, you know, I'm not sure that I necessarily need to be gluing two together. I do that because I like to put pockets and various different things on. And so if my pages get quite heavy with embellishments, you know, the pages can definitely take it. So that's kind of why I like to double them up. But if you are more doing, you know, say glue book style, then that might not be necessary, because your pages might not be going to be getting so, you know, heavy and weighty. Okay, so that's that one. And then all you're going to do is open it up again in between your two now stuck together pages. Okay, and you're just going to go round like that. I always like to glue a little bit down here, as I say. I don't really know why I find that I like to do that, but I don't know whether it helps to hold the book together. It's just something I've done, you know, from time to time, sort of done that. So I don't know whether it does help with the stability of the book or not, to be perfectly honest, but there we go. And so then bring it back, and then you can just really press those down like that. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to go through the entire book, obviously doing that. And as I say, you know, I will probably have some plainer pages, i.e., you know, just loose pages. I'm not going to do them all as pockets, because of course that would be quite boring. You know, nobody wants a whole book full of pockets. So I'm just going to work my way through, and then I'll come back and show you, you know, what I'm going to be doing then. Okay, so I'm back. I have glued my pages together, and as I said, I've glued most of them as pocket pages, but I've just got the odd few that are single pages. So here, for instance, I've got single pages. There's one or two that I've even left as single pages, if you see what I mean, not even glued them up, doubling them. And, you know, that's fine. I would just leave them as journaling pages, but most of them have been made into pockets. So that's my book now, all glued and ready to go. Now, what I like to do, and, you know, I'm a bit of a creature of habit, and if I find something that works and, you know, I like kind of that method, then I tend to just stick with it, you know, forevermore. So what I have pretty much, I think, always done in my altered books, and, you know, much as it sounds really boring, I just find it really works very well, is I like to just paint over my pages with household emulsion. So I have got this, it's crown paint, it's called Antique Cream. I just happen to have a bunch of this because this is, you know, the colour in one of my rims in my house. So I just grab, you know, some paint and just roughly paint over the pages. Now, I have done this with acrylic paint also. It works absolutely fine. I think either work, you know, pretty much just the same. So if you don't have any household emulsion, but you do have acrylic paint, that will just work, you know, just as well. And again, I just literally start painting the pages. Now, obviously, this again is a bit one of those tasks, a bit like coffee dine, that if you can do this outside and kind of leave it open in the sun to dry, you're going to get through the whole book in no time. If, like me, you've left it a bit late and now there isn't any sun, you're going to have to kind of be a bit patient. Now, you can use your, you know, the handheld embossing, what are those things called? Heat tool. Yeah, heat tool. You can use those to dry them. So you could paint them, dry them, paint them, dry them. Just depends how, you know, how much time that you want to save, really. What you can do, of course, is paint a few pages like that, and then just leave your book stood up with those pages open that you've painted so they're not touching, and leave that for 20 minutes and then come back and do your next lot and, you know, do it like that. I mean, that's kind of how I normally do it if I'm not able to actually get outside and dry them in the, you know, in the sun. So I'll just give you a very quick, you know, demonstration, as it were, of how I paint them. And, you know, the reason I'm saying that, you know, of course, there's nothing complicated. I'm only painting the pages. But the reason why I'm giving you a demonstration, as it were, is because obviously, actually, I'm going to, I think, just use the lid because that's got some paint in it and saves me having that huge tin on the table. Is because I just want to kind of show you how it is. So obviously, depending on how well covered you want your text, you can kind of put this on really quite thin, really quite thin, and have some text showing through still. Depending on, again, your paint. Now, I find acrylic paints probably are a little bit more see-through than this household, you know, emulsion. This seems to do pretty good coverage. The acrylic paints, I would say, yeah, the text is slightly more visible. Personally, I quite like that because I think it adds a bit of character to the page. But of course, you know, if you want your text completely gone, so it's completely 100%, you know, cannot see a single bit of text in there, just wait for it to dry and give it another coat. You know, 2 coats really should suffice, and, you know, it should then be pretty well covered. But as I say, I mean, I quite like mine to have a little bit of text showing through. I think it just adds a bit of interest to the pages, and, you know, it's going to give you a little bit of a background, I suppose. Again, you could do sort of multicolour pages in your book. You don't have to do them all the same colour. I did do, I think it might have been the Butterfly House, where I actually did mix the colour pages. So I had a few bluey green and, oh, I can't really remember. I think I might have had some ivory, some bluey green, and, you know, various different colours in there, which produced a really nice kind of different effect. So all I'm going to do is kind of now hold that open like that, so they're not touching. And then I can get in and just do another couple of pages here. And again, you can probably see I'm not worrying, I'm not going up to the edges or anything like that. I'm literally getting rid of the text. You know, I think this works wonderfully. And of course, you know, I have seen other people glue paper over their pages. I think Barbara glued paper over her pages, and I know that I've seen Gail do that. And, you know, that looks awesome too. I mean, my only thing with that is it's going to bulk your book out a little bit. But having said that, if you didn't double your pages up like I have, the gluing of the paper would, of course, add the thickness for the stability. So, you know, that's another option, really. I mean, as I say, I have just found that this method worked for me, you know, and so I've just always done this. But yeah, I mean, you know, that's just probably pretty boring and, to be honest, very unadventurous. So, you know, try out different things and find what works best for you. But I think this is a nice thing to do and produces quite a nice effect. And the other thing is, depending on how you're going to be decorating your pages, you might not even need to paint all of them, in which case you could paint the book as you go, depending on what embellishments you're going to put on. I mean, I'm going to, I think, paint this entire book because then it's done. But I have in the past sometimes worked as I go, and then, you know, if most of your embellishments are going to cover up the page, you only need to put a little bit of paint around, you know, the bits that are going to show. I'm just doing this because then my book's completely and utterly painted, and then, you know, I don't have to worry. I can just do exactly as I like per page, and I don't have to worry. I've got no text really kind of showing through, as it were. So that's all I'm doing. As you can see, pretty quick. And, you know, it really is just the drying that's a bit of a, you know, factor here, is the drying. But if, of course, you can get it outside, that's going to be next to no time as well to actually dry your pages. Now, these aren't going to have that lovely feel that the magazine pages have when they're painted. They feel absolutely gorgeous. These are not going to have that feel. Well, I guess they would if it was a glossy book, but this is a, you know, conventional kind of fictional book, which, you know, they're porous type pages, so they're not going to take on that lovely smooth velvety effect that they, you know, painting the magazine pages has. You know, this is purely for functionality really, rather than aesthetics, if you see what I mean. So I'm just going to finish off this page, and then I will probably leave this stood up exactly as I sort of mentioned before, leave it for 20 minutes, and then come back and do kind of another set of kind of 3 pages or six pages, and then leave it again. So then hopefully when I join you next time, my whole book will be painted and ready to work in. So all I'm going to do is literally stand it up like that with my pages kind of open. If they're moving together at all, just put something in between to make sure that they're not going to be touching like that. And that's it. And yep, I'm just going to work my way through the whole book. So I will join you when it's all done and dry. Right, I'm back with my altered book. So this is actually several days later now because I just kind of run out of time to get on with it. But as you can see, I've painted pretty much all the pages. Now, I've left a couple of things here to just be able to kind of show you, you know, just what I would do. So on the front, obviously, you know, and the back cover, you've got like the edge of the, you know, the outside cover. And what I like to do is kind of go around that very loosely. I mean, it doesn't have to be solid painting, but just a little bit to kind of cover that up. This is just, you know, something that I do. Again, completely up to you, obviously, how you would do it. But that's just something that I quite like to do. And then the other thing that I like to do is paint in here. So like in where the spine is, because again, it's picking up obviously the outside cover of the cover. Outside colour of the cover. So I just kind of dab a bit of paint in there. And then again, kind of around the edge there. Now what I will do is then paint the outside cover. And again, excuse me. And again, I haven't decided yet how I'm going to be decorating the cover. So sometimes I paint it, you know, completely. I mean, sometimes I do it painted and then just kind of leave it because that looks actually really nice, just like with 1 or 2 things stamped on it. But what I definitely like to try and do is, if I remember, because obviously sometimes I don't necessarily remember, what I actually like to do is just at least paint around the edge. So again, exactly like I have done here, I just paint around the edge so that then whatever I cover this with, the edge of the book is coated with the same sort of paint as what's in the, you know, the pages. And then the other thing that I wanted to show you, and will I now be able to find it? Well, no, hold on, no. So as you can see, some of my pages have kind of stuck together a little bit where they weren't quite dry, but this was the page that I was looking for. So as you can see, this obviously stuck together before it was dry. And then when I've pulled it apart, it's kind of taken some of the paint off and some of the book page off. So again, don't discard that or kind of worry, just paint back over that because it's very forgiving. And you know, the chances are you're going to decorate these pages up anyway. So if you just paint over it on both sides, anywhere where that's happened, it will be disguised. So, you know, I just thought I would come on and show you that before we can actually get on with doing the book. So if I just bring my paint in, again, I'm going to leave my paint on the floor because it's such a big tin. Well, I guess I can get it here to the side, but I mean, obviously it's quite a large tin, so it's not really kind of fitting brilliantly on my desk. In fact, let me again just take the lid off and then put just a little bit of paint in the lid that we can just work with, because then I don't need to have that big tin here on the desk. So, okay, let me get the tin off the desk again. Well, they're not really tins anymore, are they? They tend to be tubs, but anyway. So just to kind of demonstrate a couple of those kinds of things. So obviously on the back, I'm just going around the edge, just enough to cover the colour of the colour of the covered cover. That's just such a mouthful. Okay, so you're just going around there like that, and then obviously you can just fill in. And again, you know, I don't kind of try and make this too solid. You can make it, you know, as solid or not as you like. You're just trying to get a bit of a coat on there, really. So that, you know, that will probably do. And then exactly the same, obviously, on the facing page. So, and the reason I'm doing this kind of like this is because these are obviously those coloured pages. So not every book has the coloured, you know, page fly sheets, but this one did, and they were just light grey, so they weren't kind of too intrusive or anything like that. So that's that. Then, just to show you now, this part here, so you want to kind of, again, just go in as much as you can with your paint, like that. It doesn't matter if you paint on the, you know, on the pages themselves, you know, that's all fine. So that's that, and then I'm just going to demonstrate where we had the 2 pages with the damaged part here. So again, you can just go there and just touch that up like that, filling that in. And I mean, you know, you can see you've got a little bit of mark in there, but I mean, nothing too drastic. So, and the chances are, you know, you may decorate some of these bits anyway. So if that should happen, don't despair. And, you know, in the past, I sometimes have kind of ended up discarding things and thinking, oh no, I can't use it now. And actually the chances are you probably can. So, you know, just cover it up. So I'm just going to then open the book now. In fact, I'll go to the front just to now demonstrate, obviously, around. I'm going to end up sticking those 2 pages again, and they'll be beyond repair. So just to demonstrate again, for the outside cover, I'm just literally taking the paint around and trying to get it a little bit, you know, overhanging, so it's like actually on the edge, if you see what I mean. And then a little bit here, again, just because I don't know how I'm decorating this. So anywhere where you're likely to have bits showing, basically I'm just painting so that then it's all then, you know, matching and tying together. So I will leave that to dry for a little bit, and then I will turn that over and do the back. So then I'll be back with you guys. Now, is that the page I just painted? Just before I stick it together again. So I have done now already. But again, I'm just going to smooth that paint out like that. So, okay. Okie dokie. And obviously on the back page, I mean, obviously, this is just because I was doing a video. I would not normally do it quite so rushed as this. But obviously I wanted to be able to show you guys what I was doing. So I'm just going to leave that now to dry, and then we'll come back and do like the other section of the cover. So I'll just hold it like that and move it to one side. Right, I am finally back. So I'm just going to zoom out a little because I'm not sure whether you can kind of see everything. So my altered book is finally, you know, ready and raring to go to get, you know, filling it up. So I've decided that I'm going to do this as an altered and autumn, kind of got confused there. An autumn altered book, that's a bit of a mouthful. So I'm going to put this to one side now, but you can hopefully kind of see exactly how it's been prepped and everything. So I'm just going to put that over to the side. And what I'm going to do is make some bits of ephemera to go into the book. So I've brought along a whole bunch of things. I'm going to make an autumn snippet roll and things like that. And we're just going to have a lot of fun and kind of conjure up some nice autumnal kind of feels. So I've got paper bag. That's what I'm going to be using for my snippet roll. So I'm going to move that out of the way for a minute. Whoops. A minute. And we will just get kind of playing around and making some bits and pieces. I've already made a couple of bits. They need a bit of finishing off, but I've just kind of started making a few little bits and pieces. I've got a glassine bag here, so I want to just decorate that up. I've got the foundation for just a little foldy, one of my pull-out foldy pieces, so I just want to decorate that up. as you can see, I've kind of made a start here, making one of these pockets from an envelope. So I'm just going to kind of decorate up some of these bits and pieces so we've got a starting point for, you know, the other pieces in our book. So let me clear off these bits. I'm just going to kind of pop them onto my lap in the first instance. Right, so let's get doing some decorating and finishing off some of these pieces. So for this one here, I've obviously, as you can see, got this section kind of covered, and I just want to decide what to put on the remainder. So I'm just having a look through the papers that I've actually got, you know, with me right now. So I think I might marry this just with some book page or something, to be honest, because I think that would look really, really nice. So I've got here this lovely stamp book page that I use, you know, frequently. So I might just pull that in and pop that down here, I think. So yeah, I'm going to just tear off that top. Actually, I'm going to use the bottom because it's not got any nice pictures on the bottom of this book, so I don't want to use this nice bit. So we'll just tear that across there. Okay, so we can have that kind of like that. So that looks quite pretty, doesn't it? I'm just going to cut it down a bit at the side. So that side, and do I need to take a bit off the bottom? Only a real slither from the bottom, so I need to take a little bit off of the side and then a teeny bit off of the bottom, like that. Oops, a bit more from the side there. Yeah, probably would have been quicker to have measured it, but never mind. Okay, so that's going to just be my little piece that's going to fill in on the bottom. Oh, look, I've really given this a good shake and still it's come out a bit liquidy at the end. So I think this is where it's been stood in my cupboard for a long time, because I bulk bought some glue at the start of lockdown. So as I had plenty, or during the lockdown anyway, and it gets very cold obviously in the cupboard, so I think that's really what's happened with this. Oh, okay, right, let's just glue this down. Okie dokie. So I'm probably going to need to now nip off and get a dryer wipe, and I'm going to give my glue another shake. So okay, right, hopefully we're going to be now good to go with hopefully no more glue issues. So I'm just going to glue this together here and there. Okie dokie, and we're just going to press that down like that. Okay, so I'm going to leave that to dry before decorating that. So I'm just going to pop that to one side behind me. And let's go for the glassine bag. So again, let's just turning my glue upside down. Hopefully that's going to prevent too many more glue issues today. Okay, right. So for the glassine bag, I mean, again, we could just use this because it's quite good to just, you know, just use it whilst it's here, and it's just kind of a small scrap that otherwise I might not get round to using. Okay, so I quite like that there, and I also have some doily and things with me. Oh, I've also got that actually. I love, love, love this image here with the blue. It just looks really, really nice. So yeah, I might have to use that, to be honest. Although trying to see where I'm going to get more of this. Whether I get more on here or on here. Maybe on here. So let's just tear that down. Yeah, that looks really lovely on there, doesn't it? Okay. So again, I'm just going to glue this down. So I'm just kind of making foundation pieces, and then once they go into the journal, or, you know, when we kind of pull the journal back in, we can just kind of check out thickness-wise, what types of things we can decorate them up with and things like that. I'm feeling weirdly really nervous because I haven't done an altered book for such a long time. I feel really nervous about doing it, and I don't know why, because actually, I know I've said this before, but an altered book was actually the first junk journal I ever made, and, you know, I actually always found them easier to make, but for some reason, maybe it's because I've been challenged, I'm not sure, but I'm actually feeling really strangely nervous. Yeah, weird. Have no idea why that is the case, but it's yeah, a bit disconcerting actually. So I might just cut out this butterfly. So this is just copy paper. It's slightly thicker than your regular copy paper. It's kind of like a 100 GSM rather than your typical kind of 70 or 80. So it's a little bit thicker, but I mean, it is predominantly just a very thin paper. So it's not going to kind of bulk the paper bag out too much. I find when using the glassine bags, I mean, this isn't a hard and fast rule, and I have used thicker pieces on the glassine bags, but if I can help it, I prefer to use thinner pieces really, because I think the glassine bags, obviously because they're very flimsy and delicate, I think they kind of benefit from flimsy, delicate pieces. And as soon as I've said that, no sooner have I said that, you know what I'm pulling in? My words, which of course they're not on flimsy paper, these are on thick paper. So just as soon as I say it, I then, yeah, make myself look completely like a liar, but you know what I mean. On the whole, if I have a choice, I do on the whole try and use thinner pieces. So I'm just going to cut that down there. Now, do we like the black words? Are we going to have a kind of, you know, striking kind of black take in here? I think we should. Yeah, I think we probably will. So, yep, just need to kind of decide how I want that. Now, I haven't decided, obviously I'm going to have lace, of course, but I haven't decided what colour lace I'm going to have. So I've got some of this lace, which I've got this left over from some pieces that I did during my 3 and 30. Sorry, I don't know where that came from. Not my 3 and 30, that was a long time ago. From my mass making, I've got some pieces here of the blue, which I used for that. So we could kind of just staple on a little bit of lace kind of here in the corner, which I think looks quite nice. Yeah, I quite like that. So let me just cut this down. So this one, I dyed this with the food colouring and also a bit of coffee dye, not coffee dye, but, you know, coffee in the mixture as well. So it's not just food colouring, it's kind of dulled down a bit, because the food colouring on its own, you know, can be really quite bright. And I know that I've had people ask about the food colouring. My food colouring I've had for years and years and years, and I got it from Amazon. It was Wilton, and it's food colour gel. It's not the liquid food colouring. So that's what I've used for, you know, for this. So I'm just going to stick my butterfly down. Oops. Right, now I have liquidy type glue seeping out, so let me just give my glue a shake. Again, as I say, I did just shake it, but just in case it needs another helping hand. Going to have the butterfly up there, I think. Okay. And then I'm just going to staple this across the bottom. because I do, you know, I do really like the stapled effect. I know it's not really everyone's cup of tea, but I do quite like them. So just staple those down like that. Okay, whoops. I'm wondering, I think it probably can take one more. Oops, I'm not sure whether a staple came out that time. Let me just check. I've got, yep, I have got plenty of staples in there. I'm sure that one didn't come out. And I want to have this kind of hanging off, like going just off down there. So I just put it like that at an angle. Oops, I don't know whether it stayed at an angle now. I think I lost the angle as I poked the stapler in. There we go. Oops, come on. There we go. Okay, so I love how that looks. Really, really cute. And then my word, I think I might just have that there. Yep. So I might just ink the word up a little bit. And I've got my blending tool, so I think I'm going to use that. Just put a clean sponge on there. Only because, I mean, often I don't really bother changing the sponge between colours, but I had used the black soot, which I'd finally got around to buying recently, and the black soot obviously is very, you know, very black obviously. So yeah, I think it would, you know, would have an effect if I were to just use that. So probably best not to use that. Okay, just glue my word down. Okay, so that looks really nice, doesn't it? Okay, so that's that one. I don't have a clue how long this video's been, I'm afraid, because I've done it in so many stages showing you the altered book process. I really have lost track. So I think we've probably got time for just one more, and then I think we'll probably be up to, you know, quite a longish video. So I'm just going to pop that one behind me on the floor. Let's just bring in this piece now. So I haven't glued this down yet. I will be gluing that down there. But I think first of all, I just want to cover the back of that. And let me just have a look. Sorry, I'm just checking, because I've got some more of the autumn pieces over here on the floor behind me. So I'm just going to pull those in. So, and this is where I've got the original autumn ephemera that I'm going to kind of try and marry with obviously the new papers. And these are the old autumn papers. So I'm going to kind of marry the two kits together because, you know, I'm hoping that they're designed in a way that if you bought the ephemera part last year, and, you know, maybe you bought the papers as well, I'm hoping that they're going to kind of complement each other enough so that you can get away with not having to buy a whole new thing again, but you could just buy kind of this year's papers and it would complement nicely and sit nicely together with last year's papers and ephemera. So that's kind of the plan, is what I'm hoping. So let's just have a look. So I've got this paper, which is quite nice, isn't it? So yeah, let me just, I think I'm going to tear this down. So just tear it down here. Okay. Like that. And then probably along here. Like that. Oops, come on. I don't think I've quite made a very good job of that, but never mind. Right. I just need to kind of snip that corner piece off a bit more. Okay. That would go there, and then obviously need to trim it in and trim it around. So I'm just going to see what would look good. Now, unfortunately, I had printed these on card. So, yeah, in an ideal world, I would have printed these on thinner paper. But, yeah, unfortunately, I kind of obviously didn't really plan it out very well. So these are actually printed on card, which is a bit of a shame, but never mind. So I'll just want to see whether this might look quite nice. So it's quite nice, but I would have to, I think, have it that way. Yeah, I think, although then that's kind of upside down. Right, let me just have another look through. I feel like I'm very ill prepared today. But yeah, as I say, I think it's, I'm a bit nervous about making the altered book. I have no idea why. Why is that? I have absolutely no idea, but sometimes you just get like that, don't you? And today definitely is one of those days. So yeah, I don't know why. Actually, I'm going to cut this right down to where the script begins, because I think, you know, I'd like to have the full script, if you see what I mean, because that will look really nice then against this piece here. And now I'm thinking, actually, did I want to have that higher? Like that. Oh, it's hard to say, because if I trim that there, I'm going to lose a lot of that. So yeah, I might have to trim it down. Right, okay, so I'm going to trim this down here. Honestly, I'm making such a meal of this, it's just terrible. I'm just going to trim it down like that. Okay, and I'm going to just now glue this into place in there, and then I'm going to trim around it. I'm going to just take that down slightly more. I thought it would be tucked behind the fold, and so, you know, I could get away with it, but actually I think it's going to look better tucked right in. So go all around there like that. Okie dokie. And then just a bit on the piece itself, and I'm just putting it, whoops, down the edge, because obviously I didn't know where the edge would come to on the piece of paper, if you see what I mean. That glue's still leaking out, which is a bit of a nuisance. Oh. I've never bought this glue in kind of bulk before. I've had no need to, obviously, until the lockdown. And yeah, I think it's definitely not really done it any good sitting in my cupboard, you know, not being moved. Because it's just kind of settled, and I assume it's separated, so it's now watery at the top, I assume, and thick at the bottom, which in hindsight, that's probably why I've been having so many problems with my glue recently, because I'm assuming that the bottom layer is just extremely thick. And given how watery this one appears to be at the top, I'm just kind of dreading to think just how thick this is going to be at the bottom. It's not going to be very easy to use at all. So yeah, prepare yourselves for more trials and tribulations with the glue. I'm sure I have more to come. Right, so I'm going to cut this down here like that. And then I'm just going to cut it across at the top, just because obviously that's not particularly straight. So I'm just going to go across there like that. Okay, just get rid of those bits. Okie dokie. So as I say, this is printed on card, and to be honest, you know, if I was actually doing this again, I wouldn't have printed it on card. I would have that on flimsier paper, but you know, it will be fine. It will still work fine. So I'm going to now cut this down again, I think. So, because actually in hindsight, I think it would be better moved up. So I'm just going to tear that down. That. Okay. Oh gosh, look at what I've done. Oh dear, I am having a bad crafting day today. I mean, sometimes you just have those days like that, don't you? And yeah, obviously today is one of those days. Everything I touch is just just turning into a disaster. I think it's because yesterday I did lots and lots of videos back to back, and I had a really great day crafting. You know, I'm not saying anything I produced was really great, but a really good day's crafting where everything went to plan, I suppose. And so I think today I'm obviously on payback and nothing is going to plan. It's all just poorly planned, let's just say, very poorly planned. Right, so I'm just going to trim this off here at the edge, and then I can glue this down. My gosh, that took so long, didn't it, for me to actually sort this out? Oh dear. Thank you for sticking with me. If you are still with me, probably most people have turned off by now. They're just so bored. Okay, right. So I've glued that piece in like that. So again, I'm going to decorate this when we actually come to, you know, put it in the journal. I will probably just leave these bits, but maybe just kind of fill in something with maybe, you know, oh, I don't know, but maybe like a something on here. So when you open it up, it's not completely plain, but that's my kind of foundation piece done. So yeah, I think what I'd like to do next is probably make a super fun autumn snippet. I know that Joey and Barbara has already made a lovely autumn snippet, and I think that Joey is planning on making one as well. So yes, I think I'm going to make a snippet roll for going into the journal. So I will be back and we will make a snippet roll together. So thank you so much for watching, and hope that you have fun. Hope that the prep of the altered book was of use, and if you're joining along with us, with Joey and Barbara and myself, in the altered book challenge, then I hope that you enjoy yourself, and yeah, see you again. Thanks then. Bye.